הטוב על הראש. יורד על הזקן, זקן אהרון. שיורד על פי מידותיו, חיים של שלום, חיים של טובה, חיים של טובה, חיים של ברכה, של חילוץ עצמות, חיים שיש בהם, שיש בהם יראת שמיים חיים של אושר וכבוד, חיים שתבואו אהבת תורה ויראת שמיים, חיים שימלאו משאלות ליבנו לטובה.
בכל דור ודור חייבים אנו לראות את עצמנו כאילו יצאנו ממצרים. בכל דור ודור חייבים אנו לראות את עצמנו כאילו יצאנו ממצרים. כאילו יצאנו ממצרים. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת נשים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו יחד. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו יחד. שבת כולנו יחד. שבת כולנו יחד.
It is so good, it is so sweet to be together on this evening. Shabbat Shalom to everybody and welcome to Congregation Beit Simchat Torah, the LGBTQ synagogue of New York City. I'm Rabbi Yael Rapport, and tonight I am joined by our musical director, Joyce Rosenzweig, and our Cantorial intern, Sam Rosen, for this Shabbat Chag service. This special Shabbat that welcomes the close of the holiday of Pesach and brings us into sacred time, bein kodesh lekodesh, from one sacred moment beautifully flowing into the next. In this season of Passover, we wish each other in Hebrew, Moadim l'simcha, Chagim uzmanim lesason, that these are sacred times that are filled with joy. We honor that sense of overflowing joy with a number of special traditions unique for Pesach, especially when it coincides with Shabbat, as it will always. So instead of a Kabbalat Shabbat service, where we would usually move through the Psalms of the days of the week leading up to Shabbat, instead of that whole section of the service, we dedicate ourselves to the singing of the Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, our most ancient and possibly our most beautiful love song in Jewish tradition. We honor the understanding that there is no emotion on the human spectrum that can be completely unalloyed, that is, uniquely pure in purpose. That's not how human beings were made, and since we are all images of the divine, perhaps that's not how God experiences emotions as well. We recognize that many of us are holding a mix of emotions within us with which we lead with joy. But the personal sense of Mitzrayim, of narrowness and constriction that each of us carries with us, or that each of us is in the process of leaving towards liberation, it colors this sense of joy in a shade that is completely singular to every human being on the planet. Some of us, while celebrating the joy and the overwhelming gratitude for this season, are also carrying with us recent experiences of loss. For some of us, this part of the calendar in Jewish time is complex because even as we are celebrating the sense of Pesach and the blossoming of spring and the essence of love that is communicated throughout the story of Pesach, we enter into, on Sunday, a memorial service, one of the 3 opportunities during the course of the year for the festival holidays that we remember all of those whom we have loved and lost. And we know that just 1 week ahead on the calendar, on Wednesday evening and Thursday during the day, is the contemporary historical observance of Yom HaShoah, the Hagvura, Holocaust Memorial Day on the Jewish calendar. The calendar is complex. Our lives are complex. Human experience is complex. But there is one emotion that can hold within it all of these contradictions and still bring us through, and that emotion is love. And so as we sing Shir HaShirim, as we sing all of the different love songs that will be encompassed in this Kabbalat Chag service this evening, we remember the light that love can bring, even when we are in shadowy corners ourselves. We honor all the sacred mix of shadow and light, of holy and holy, all of these things that make us who we are, that make us human, and that make us sacred. We usher in this special moment on the Jewish calendar by lighting Shabbat and Yom Tov candles, and we bless these lights that illuminate our experience. You can join us on page 39 for the blessing of Hadlakat Nerot Shel Shabbat v'Shel Yom Tov.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shabbat ושל יום טוב.
We welcome into our presence angels of Shabbat and all of the angels who walk with us throughout our journeys. Page 40, rising in body and spirit as we sing Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We have come to a moment that some of us, or maybe just me, eagerly anticipate every year on the Jewish calendar, a sacred departure from the norm and a special Kabbalat Chag rather than Kabbalat Shabbat. We're going to be singing the settings of Shir HaShirim, and most of the musical settings that we'll hear tonight are by Israeli composers, and they are written just prior to or in the early years of the establishment of the state. It was Joyce who taught me that there is an entire massive genre of settings for Shir HaShirim that were written right at this same time, right in this same place, perhaps because there's a deep connection to nature and to the land of Israel itself, perhaps because of the promise of rebirth that may have come with the establishment of the state and the connections that were being built between the physical and the spiritual, all in the language of love. So tonight you will hear many settings of Shir HaShirim that Joyce and Sam will be sharing with us, but we begin with its traditional cantillation, a special chanting system that is reserved only for this scroll, only for this Megillah of Shir HaShirim.
Shir HaShirim asher lishlomo, Yishakeni min shikot pihu, Ki tovim dodecha miyain.
Having introduced the very beginning of the scroll, we move now to chapter 4, and we're singing Hinach Yafa, and different words of love that are beloved among the Jewish people.
Hinach יפה, הינך יפה רעייתי. עינייך יונים, עינייך יונים, מבעד לצמתך. גן נעול אחותי קלה, גל נעול מעיין חתום, מעיין גנים באר מים חיים ונוזלים
Our journey through these beautiful settings continues with words that many lovers have exchanged under their chuppah. The words Dodi li, I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine, from chapter 2 of Song of Songs.
show
Finally, at least for this part of the service, we'll close our Shabbat Chag with a special piyut that comes from Song of Songs. It's a liturgical poem based on it, where perhaps it could be read as a metaphor or as literal. The time for lovers has arrived, my bride, come to my garden. Or perhaps the time for redemption has arrived. People of Israel, come to my divine garden. This is Et Dodim Kala, and it is a Yemenite melody that Sam will be sharing with us.
Et Dodim Kala, boi legani. Et Dodim Kala, boi legani. Parcha hagefen, einei tzrimonim. Parcha hagefen, einei tzrimonim. Et dodim kala, boi legani. Et dodim kala, boi legani. Parcha hagefen, einei tzrimonim. Parcha hagefen, einei tzrimonim. Et dodim kala, boi legani. Et dodim kala, boi legani.
We transition between modes of sacred writing, from Shir HaShirim to Tehillim to the Psalms. But I don't think that we move genres so terribly much. Psalm 92 can also be read as a love song. Perhaps it's a love song to Shabbat. Maybe its author is the psalmist. Maybe its author is the one who created Shabbat, who brought it as a gift to the people of Israel, to all who observe it. I want to invite us to take a moment to really revel in this transition, to fully experience the feeling of love. Take a deep breath. Maybe close your eyes so that your ears can open a little bit wider. And breathe slowly with intention. And as we draw in breath, think about a time that you experienced love. And who loved you? And how this love made you feel? Was it another person? Was it an animal? An experience of the natural world? Was it a radical moment when you expressed love for yourself? And breathe in that feeling. And as you exhale, breathe out, meditating on a time that you gave love. That you were a source of love for someone, some creature, for yourself. A moment when it was so sorely needed. Take a few deep breaths, living these experiences through. We are grateful to have these experiences. They illuminate our lives. And so we remind ourselves it is good to give thanks. It is good to be present in this feeling of gratitude and appreciation. Morning, in the evening, every moment that we can. Page 72, Mizmor Shir.
Mizmor Shir, Mizmor Shir, Leyom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir, Mizmor Shir, Leyom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai ulzamer leshimcha elyon, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, ליום השבת.
The sound of this service is distinctly different. That's one of our favorite things about it. This difference in auditory experience will extend throughout the entire service. As we enter our Mariv section, you'll hear the nusach of the traditional prayers that we recite regularly, shifting to match the season. This is special music for the Shalosh Regalim, for the 3 pilgrimage festivals of Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot. So as we rise in body and spirit for our call to prayer on page 78, this is the music that will usher us into our Passover Yom Tov.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
As we move into the blessing of Hama'ariv Aravim, naming God as the one who makes evening fall, I invite you to join me in this reading on page 83 by the poet Hillel Zeitlin. Source of all that exists, you create your world anew every moment. Would you but for a moment withhold your creative love, the whole universe would come to an end. You pour out your blessings on your creatures every instant, and again the stars renew their song of love to you. And again the angels chant over their song of holiness to you. And again the souls of mortals repeat their yearning for you. And again the birds keep chirping their hymns of joy to you. And again the trees wrap themselves in their talit of leaves and offer their worship to you. And again the fountains in whispers murmur their prayers to you. O God, turn on me but one ray of your light, and I will be steeped in light. Let but one word issue from you, and I rise restored. But one wave of your life eternal, and I am drenched in the dew of youth. Do you not continually renew your creation, O source of life? Take me, your child, and renew me. Breathe your spirit into me that I may live, that I may start life afresh with childhood's unbounded promise. We thank you for both day and night, for continually renewing your creation.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. Amen.
We continue on page 86 with Ahavat Olam, endless love.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. אמן. שמע Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Please continue with the biblical passages that make up the Ve'ahavta at your own speed through page 92.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Amen. As we reach Mi Chamocha in our service tonight, it is with great excitement because we will be reciting these words tomorrow, a redux opportunity for Shabbat Pesach when we reread the Song of the Sea, these words of liberation that our people sang led by the prophet Miriam as they entered the Sea of Reeds. Join us on page 92 with the special Pesach melody of Adir Hu.
Adonai et Yaakov וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
As we pray for peace and protection with the words of Hashivenu on this Shabbat Pesach, I wanted us to start with a certain kavanah, an orientation, an intention, through a poem by Rabbi Tamara Ruth Cohen. It's on page 227 in B'chol Levavcha, CBST's Siddur. If we speak truthfully about the pains, joys, and contradictions of our lives, if we listen to others with sensitivity and compassion, if we challenge the absence of women in traditional texts, the chronicles of Jewish history, and the leadership of our institutions, Dayenu. If we continue to organize, march, and vote to affirm our values, if we fight economic injustice, sexism, racism, homophobia, and transphobia, if we volunteer our time and money, Dayenu. If we break the silence about violence against women and children in the Jewish community and everywhere, if we teach our students and children to pursue justice with all their strength, if we care for the earth and its future as responsibly as we care for those we love, if we create art, music, dance, and literature, Dayenu. If we realize our power to affect change, if we bring holiness into our lives, homes, and communities, if we honor our visions more than our fears, Dayenu velo Dayenu. It will, and it will not be enough. As we work towards the building of a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace for all who dwell on earth, may we do as much as we can so that it will be enough and the work will remain to be done for the next generation of leaders. We join together on page 98 in the Siddur and also in the program for the setting of Hashkivenu by Rabbi Yoshi Zweibeck.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom, V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom, V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Uferos aleinu sukkot shelomecha, Baruch ata Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom עלינו ועלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל כל העמים ועל ירושלים.
Please rise in body and spirit as we sing V'shamru on page 102.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. איי 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 בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי Shabbat
As this Shabbat is one that coincides with a festival, we recite the additional citation on page 102 from Torah, from the book of Leviticus.
וידבר משה את מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל.
Following the Chatzi Kaddish as we recite our Shabbat and festival, Amidah, if you're choosing to follow the Matbei Tefillah, the traditional formulations of the blessings as they come in order, you can find them on page 266 for a special festival Amidah with all of its Shabbat insertions. A meditation by Marge Piercy is always found on page 124, or you could use this opportunity to seek out the words of your heart instead of the words on the page. The Chatzi Kaddish begins on page 104.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה אמן בעלמא דברך יראותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילם תפילתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואימרו אמן.
From Shir Hashirim, chapter 2. Like a lily among thorns, so is my darling among the youth. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the youth. How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes are like doves behind your veil.
כשושנה בין החוכים, כן רעייתי בין הבנות, כתפוח בעצי היער, כן דודי בין אבנים. הינך יפה עינייך יונים מבער לצמתך. הינך יפה עינייך יונים הינך הינך יפה עינייך יונים הינך הינך יפה עינייך יונים הינך הינך יפה עינייך יונים מבעד לצמתך כשושנה בין החוכים כן רעייתי בין הבנות כתפוח בצי היד כן דודי בין הבנים כשושנה 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 עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן
Having come from private and individual meditation, we once again join our voices together for communal prayer. And on page 130 of the Siddur, you can find our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing. We invite you to put names of those for whom you pray into the chat as we recite all together. Misha Berach imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilha, Zilpah, Va'avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, Ve'Yaakov, Hu Yivarech V'Yirapeh Tacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilha, and Zilpah, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, bless us too. Bless and heal all those who are ill. Bless Stephen Altman, Marcia Ellen Bornstein, Lisa Brown, Jean Carey, Karen Filosa, Rita Fisher, Jeannie Heller, Steve Kodik, Eliyahu Meir, Maureen Michael, Geula Bat Miriam, Saul Mizrahi, Rochel Leah Bat Moshe V'Shendel, Rebecca Rosenbaum, Gary Sharkey, Michelle Treisman, Irva Shivad, Rose Wanan, Rachmiel Ben Avraham Veliba, and all of those who we name in the chat and all of those we're holding in our hearts tonight. May they be blessed with a full and complete healing, a healing of spirit and a healing of body, together with all those who are ill among the Jewish people and among the world. May those who will not be healed on this earth be blessed with nights free from suffering and days filled with peace. May God grant strength and comfort to those who care for the sick. May God help us to find hope and courage as we face fear and loss. May all who are ill be surrounded by the love of friends, loving companions, families, and community. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Tonight, our prayer for the country will be led by Fran Dunkel, and her family. Fran's family, who have been a part of CBST since the early 90s, bring with them many, many blessings. But Fran's family is part of an ever-shrinking group of people who spanned 3 generations of Shoah survivorship. Fran's mother, Nellie Dunkel, to whom we send lots of blessings, was a child who escaped the Holocaust on Kindertransport to England. Fran herself is a 2nd-generation survivor, and her daughter, Emily Bernstein Dunkel, is a 3rd-generation survivor. And so, in honor and in memory, we join our voices with Fran, her wife Leslie Bernstein, and their daughter Emily Bernstein Dunkel in this prayer for our country and all the promise that it holds.
Our God and God of our ancestors, bless this country and all who dwell within it. Help us to experience the blessings of our lives and circumstances, to be vigilant, compassionate, and brave. Strengthen us when we are afraid.
Help us to channel our anger so that it motivates us to action. Help us to feel our fear so that we do not become numb. Help us to be generous with others so that we raise each other up. Help us to be humble in our fear, knowing that as vulnerable as we feel, there are those at greater risk.
And that it is our holy work to stand with them. Help us to taste the sweetness of liberty, to not take for granted the freedoms won in generations past or in recent days, to heal and nourish our democracy, that it may be like a tree planted by the water, whose roots reach down to the stream. It need not fear drought when it comes. Its leaves are always green.
And we answer Emily, Fran, and Leslie with Amen. We transition our service into the recitation of Hallel, especially for Pesach, and we're marking that transition with the recitation of Kaddish Shalem on page 138. We invite you to rise, if it is your custom.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועלמא דברה קידותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון ויומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואימרו יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואימרו תקבל צלות הון ובעוד הון דכל ישראל קודם אבוהון דיבי שמיה ואימרו יהי שלם הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו.
Honor of the recitation of the Psalms of Hallel, we all stand in body and in spirit as they raise us up. On page 160, we start with Psalm 114, B'tzei Israel.
בצאת ישראל ממצרים בית יעקב מעם לועז בצאת ישראל ממצרים בית יעקב מעם לועז הייתה יהודה לקודשו ישראל ממשלותיו הים ראה וינוס הירדן יסוב לאחור ההרים רקדו כאלים גבעות כבני רצון. מה לך הים, מה לך הים, כי תנוס, הירדן, הירדן, תיסוב לאחור, תיסוב לאחור. ההרים, ההרים, תרקדו חיילים, תרקדו חיילים. גבעות, גבעות, כבני צאן, כבני צאן. מלפני אדון, מלפני אדון, חולי ארץ, חולי ארץ, מלפני, מלפני אלוה יעקב, אלוה יעקב. ההופכי חצור, ההופכי חצור, אגמים, אגמים. חלמיש, חלמיש, למיינו מים, למיינו מים.
On page 168, Psalm 118, the end of the Egyptian Hallel, Pitchu li.
פיתחו לי שערי צדק, אבובם אודיה. פיתחו לי שערי צדק, אבובם אודיה. זה השער לאדוני, צדיקים יבואו בו. זה השער לאדוני, צדיקים יבואו בו. עודך כי עניתני, ותהי לי לישועה. עודך כי עניתני, ותהי לי לישועה. אבן מסו הבונים, הייתה לראש פינה. אבן מסו הבונים, הייתה לראש פינה. מאת אדוני הייתה זאת, היא נפלאת בעינינו. מאת אדוני הייתה זאת, היא נפלאת בעינינו. זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו. זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו.
So, I was recently re-listening to the extraordinary story of Dr. Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, who has overseen the development of the first COVID-19 vaccine approved for emergency use by the FDA. I first noticed this particular interview with Dr. Bourla because it focused on his family's Jewish heritage, and it was being conducted by Robert Krulwich, the brother of beloved CBS team member Sarah Krulwich, so my ears were already perked up. The very first question asked of Dr. Bourla was, how old is your hometown, and how long has your family been there? Dr. Borla is a Greek Jew whose family has lived for 22 generations, around 500 years in Thessaloniki, an ancient city named for the sister of Alexander the Great, and also known as Salonika. The Jews of Salonika, and Dr. Borla's family in particular, encompass one of the most beautiful, tragic, and unique chapters of all of Jewish history. Jews made up a minority community in Salonika over 2,000 years ago, as one of the oldest ethnic Jewish communities in existence. This is a totally singular geographic type of Judaism known as Romaniot, which has its own liturgical rites and distinct language of Judeo-Greek known as Yevanic. Following the Spanish expulsion of Jews in 1492, Salonika in particular became home to many Sephardic immigrants seeking refuge in the welcoming Ottoman Empire. By the 16th century, Salonika's population was 2/3 Jewish, a clear majority. It was a center of Judeo-Spanish culture, of Torah learning, of Jewish mysticism, and multiple Ladino newspapers. At one point, 50% of the population of Salonika spoke Ladino, the dialect of Sephardic Jewry. Sam actually taught me that it's one of the only cities in the world where non-Jewish merchants had to learn Ladino terms and phrases in order to do business in town. Jews in Salonika were part of the essential fabric of their Greek community, even fighting for Greek independence in the 1920s. But during World War II and Nazi occupation, the story of the Jews of Salonika was once again extraordinary, but this time in the scope of its tragedy. While Sephardic stories of the Shoah have risen to greater and greater prominence, especially in recent years, the Jews of Salonika, their story is not often told. The Nazi regime took over Greece in 1941, and ghettos in Salonika were established. In 1942, on a July day known as Black Shabbat, all the men of Salonika from age 18 to 45 were rounded up for forced labor. For 10 weeks they were tortured and many died, while the Jewish community tried to raise the 3.5 billion drachma sum demanded by the Nazis for their ransom. They could only raise 2 billion of that total, but to cover the rest, they agreed they would abandon the Jewish cemetery in Salonika, where approximately 500,000 people were buried. The cemetery was destroyed. The headstones were used for paving materials. Today, this is the site of Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Despite this heartbreaking exchange, more than 90% of the Jews of Salonika were deported to concentration camps in Poland, mostly Auschwitz, across the whole of Central Europe. It's said that only Polish Jewry experienced a greater level of destruction than the Salonican Jewish community. By the end of the Holocaust, only 1/30, less than 2,000 Jewish residents of the original 50,000 remained. In Dr. Borlas's case, on his father's side, of those many, many relations of 22 generations dating back to the 1700s, only his father and uncles survived. His mother was the only one to carry on her family name, having been rescued from a firing squad by a bribe from her non-Jewish brother-in-law. And yet, without question, Dr. Borlas credits his work ethic, his dedication to the preservation and the elevation of life, and his deep-seated faith in the promise and the potential of humanity for goodness to his family and community's story of survival, not destruction. Our service tonight has been woven together by love songs, whether explicitly or implicitly. In honor of Pesach, we opened with one of our most ancient love songs in Jewish tradition, the Song of Songs. Our prayers and liturgy of the Shabbat service can each be seen as a sort of love song between human and divine in reciprocal directions. Tonight, instead of the prose of a typical drasha, we will turn to a different type of love song, from which we will all learn in divrei Shirah, words of poetry and music. To introduce this love song of Salonican Jewry, I turn to our teacher, Joyce Rosenzweig.
Shabbat Shalom. Folk songs of any people are precious possessions that are lovingly handed down from generation to generation. Folk songs comfort us when we are afraid and carry the wisdom, imagination, and cultural values of those who came before us. The gorgeous Ladino folk song, Arvoles Lloran, Trees Are Crying, is one of the oldest, most beloved, and well-known of all Sephardic folk songs. The original song is about lovers who are separated, who dream of being reunited. The words are, trees weep for rain and mountains for air. Thus my eyes weep for you, dear beloved. Come and you will see. Come and you will see. We will see with the love which we share, we will be united. The refrain says, what will happen to me? In foreign lands I will die, obviously afraid that they may not ever see their loved one again. When the Greek Jews were sent to Auschwitz, they took their folk songs with them as a connection to their previous life and to express the inexpressible, especially when the majority of the other inmates spoke Yiddish and not Ladino. Arvoles Lloran is an example of such a folk song, which was adopted by a group of inmates in Auschwitz, known as the Coro Saloniko, and renamed In Polish Lands. This version that you will hear tonight is a lament, this time not for one's sweetheart, but for one's mother, whether it's one's actual mother or perhaps one's motherland. Instead of saying just, in foreign lands I will die, it specifically says, in Polish lands I am destined to die. The song is written in A major. You will hear it tonight in A major, a bright and hopeful key. But in reality, with all of its lyricism, there is a sense of sadness, desperation, and impending doom. May we keep telling and retelling the glorious stories of the Greek Jews and study and pass along their poetry, their songs, their stories to generations still to come as a blessing and as an inspiration forever. Arvoles Lloran.
Arvoles Lloran por lluvias y montañas por aires. Ansí lloran los mis ojos por ti, querida madre. Ansí lloran los mis ojos por ti, querida madre. Torno y digo, ¿qué va a ser de mí? ise mojo la calle y el cortillo anda decir de al mi amor que es de los ojos míos anda decir de al mi amor que es de los ojos míos. Torno y digo que va a ser de mí en tierras de Polonia. Me tengo que morir. When learning this piece, I couldn't help but think of the incredibly rich Sephardi civilization that made this music possible. And I thought of my ancestors, all of our ancestors, who sacrificed so much to retain their Jewish identity. As a student of history at JTS, the story of Salonika became dear to my heart because I see so much of us in them. I'm indebted to Joyce for bringing me this piece and introducing it to all of us. By singing these Ladino words and continuing to live and celebrate Jewish life, we honor their memories.
One thing that the Jewish people has always known how to do in every language, in every age, is to write a love song. And so tonight we wanted to honor the rich, the intricate, and the deeply complicated landscape of what it means to sing with love. We echo these emotions over and over again each time we pray. We hold the voices of the poets and the artists and the musicians and the composers and every person who sang these songs over generations in our hearts. And we write new songs to continue b'chol dor vador in each generation, a sacred legacy of music, of beauty, of art, and of love. We are called to praise in words that the CBST community wrote, adding to the sacred chain of tradition. Aleinu l'shabeach, it is up to us to envision a world as it could be. Please join us on page 140 and rise in body and spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שברא אותנו בצלמו ונפח בנו את נשמת חיינו, שהעמיק אותנו בלימוד תורתו וקידשנו במצוותיה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בחשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
From the Israeli poet Chana Senesh, she herself a Shoah survivor, she herself a martyr. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו בעינם. There are stars whose radiance is visible on earth, though they have long been extinct. There are people whose brilliance continues to light the world, though they are no longer among the living. These lights are particularly bright when the night is dark. They light the way for humankind. On this Shabbat Pesach, we hold in our hearts the memories of beloved CBST members whose deaths occur in this season, Mark Layton and Sanford Sandy Levitt. Our dear family and friends Stephen Becker, Richard Kloster, Bernard Feynman, Solomon Golub, Frank Haddad, Bell Horwitz, Charles Howard, Ray Lamke, Matilda Lipka, Vera Manaheim, Leah Orleans, Harry Post, Alfred Schlensker, Robert Weber, Sylvia Weiss, David Winshauer, and Salo Winshauer. We embrace with all of our hearts those who have experienced recent loss, and this week the entire CBST community is in mourning for the loss of CBST member Leah Rizak van Leeuwen, Zichrona Livracha, who died March 29th at age 90. And we hold her Spice CBST member Jane Spielman in our hearts with love. We mourn the loss of CBST member, the Honorable Judge Paul Feynman, Zichrono Livracha, who died on March 31st at the age of 61. And we hold in our hearts Paul's husband, CBST member Robert Ostegard. The CBST community extends ourselves to hold everyone in this world who is suffering from having lost someone due to the COVID-19 pandemic, among those who are dying each day. As of the beginning of Shabbat, the total number of deaths were 31,262 in New York City, 50,669 in New York State, 566,616 across the United States, and 2,843,051 worldwide. Just as we know that these statistics can never possibly transmit the enormity of such loss to the world and its future, we too hold in our hearts on this Shabbat that precedes the observance of Yom HaShoah, which will come this week, Wednesday night and Thursday, of the uncountable millions and of the at least 6 million Jewish people who perished all over the world in the flames of the Holocaust. The CBST community will be joining with our partners in the Downtown Jewish Life Collaborative on Wednesday evening as a part of the 14th Street-wise observance of Erev Yom HaShoah, and you can find links to be part of this observance on the CBST website, and we'll be sharing it throughout the week. I invite all of those who are mourning the loss of someone they love, whether it is in recent days, at this particular season, or in years past, to share the names of those you love in the chat, to reach out to one another, and to stand in body and spirit for the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei, be'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv, v'imru. Amen.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam U'almei Almaya Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei Dekudsha.
Brichu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Zichronam livracha. May these memories be for blessing. And may we, in honor of those we love, create more peace and more light in our world. I turn now to the CBST President of the Board of Directors, Sabrina Farber, to share some announcements with our community.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to CBST, whether this is your first visit or your 50th. Thank you to Baal Tefillah Cantorial Intern Sam Rosen, and to our music director Joyce Rosenzweig, and to Rabbi Yael Rapport for your service leadership and your inspiring words of Torah. Creating Shabbat community with people like you from all over is a source of strength and renewal for all of us. I want to pause to acknowledge that creating these services and sustaining our community really does take a village. Tonight, I'd like to thank Jorge Loyola, who is probably the most invisible employee at our 30th Street location. Jorge is our facilities manager who makes sure our space is always spick and span and running smoothly. Before the pandemic, Jorge saw much more of us as he was constantly in motion on a ladder, polishing the windows, dusting above the sanctuary door, receiving packages, cleaning everywhere, and making endless pots of coffee. Jorge has been working steadily during the pandemic, making sure the facilities are in good shape, dealing with tradespeople, and keeping watch over everything while we are not on site. Jorge is truly the guardian angel of CBST. With Jorge's smiling face, CBST is a much richer community. Jorge, we are truly grateful. Join us tomorrow, Saturday morning, for Shabbat Pesach services at 9:30 a.m. Baal Tefillah will be Larry Kay, with service leading by Rabbi Yael Rapport and a dvar from Cooperberg Ritmaster Rabbinical Fellow, almost a rabbi, Deborah Megdal. Havdalah tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., led by Cooperberg Ritmaster Rabbinical Intern Dave Yedid. And Sunday, join us again for Pesach, Yom Tov, and Yizkor services at 9:30. These will be closed captioned. Registration is now open online for spring Lair House classes. Lots and lots of people have been asking about this. Offerings include Yiddish literature with Rabbi Kleinbaum, language of the Shabbat service with Rabbi Rapport, cantillation with the famous Jack Greenberg, and of course, Hebrew of all levels. Mazal Tov to the entire CBS team, especially Jesse Katz, Rabbi Mike Moskowitz, Rabbi Marisa James, and Ariel Zitney, that brought us the second trans convening this week. Hundreds and hundreds of folks participated from all over, and we are so grateful to contribute to and hold space for this holy work. Thank you for helping us build community as we continue to work toward a more just world. Our contribution to Tikkun Olam. Shabbat Shalom, Moedim L'Simcha.
Chagim Uzmanim L'Sason, Sabrina. Thank you so much for your leadership of CBST and its board of directors. Tonight, not only is it Shabbat Pesach, not only is this a moment so spectacular in its complexity on the Jewish calendar, it is also one of a series of moments of counting as we reach closer and closer to Shavuot, the counting of the Omer. And you can see on CBST's Facebook page, every day of the Omer, a new reflection on the spiritual practice of allyship by all of our favorite CBST beloved rabbis and from the wider community, former Cooperberg Ritmaster rabbinical interns, and thought leaders of all stripes from across the country. We turn to page 228 and 229 in our Sidurim to honor the counting of the Omer. Each of the days leading up to Shavuot, the 49 days of the Omer, we want to pronounce every night with significance, which means that we don't spoil the surprise. We don't say the name of the day that we are beginning until the sacred moment. So each Shabbat, when we are counting the Omer, we will refer to the day that passed to get everybody on the same page, and then with all pomp and circumstance, we will pronounce the day of the Omer as it entered as sunset. So yesterday was the 5th day of the Omer. We invite you to rise in body and spirit as we say, Hineni Muchana Muzmenet L'Kayam Mitzvat Asa Shel Sfirat HaOmer. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer, as it is written in the Torah, from the day on which you bring the elevation offering, the day after Shabbat, you shall count 7 complete weeks. You should count until the day after the 7th week, making 50 days. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al Sfirat HaOmer. Blessed are you, the Eternal One, who has sanctified us with your mitzvot and commanded us to count the Omer. Hayom, Shisha Yamim La Omer. Today is 6 days of the Omer. We want to thank everybody who supported our live streaming of services tonight. Tonight's live stream was sponsored by Tamara and Carly Balash in memory of Leah Rizach, Zichrona Livracha. We were so blessed to have spent time making art, listening to stories, and watching live stream services with you, with love. By Annika Cooper and Sasha Bentley in memory of our trans siblings that were cut down while trying to live their lives as who they really were. In honor of our trans siblings, brave, beautiful, respected, and loved, with love. By Lee Goldberg in loving memory of Leah Rizak, Zichrona Livracha, your one-of-a-kind smile lit up a room. So grateful to know you and Jane, your beloved Spice. By Matthew Gore in memory of Paul Feynman, Zichrono Livracha, who gave me my first job after law school and opened doors for countless others. He was a model of wisdom, integrity, kindness, and humility. By Rachel Monaco and Jennifer Resnick in memory of our beloved nephew, Robert Weber, Zichrono Livracha, on the anniversary of his first yortzeit. He is greatly missed. By Lawrence Nelson in memory of my mother-in-law, Shirley Howard, Zichrona Livracha, mother of the late Brenda, mother of Pride Howard, on her second yortzeit. By Judge Michael Somberg and Andy Austin in memory of Judge Paul Feynman, Zichrono Livracha, a friend and colleague for nearly 30 years. Warm, generous, modest. A man who lived, Tzedek Tzedek, Tirdof. We are supported by Aleinu in memory of Leah Rizak von Leeuwen, Zichrona Livracha. Leah and Jane often shared a pew with us at services. We'll miss Leah's small talk and bright smile when we return. By Rafaela Shirah Anshel in loving memory of Leah Rizak, Zichrona Livracha, and in loving memory of her niece, Nina Janelle Albert, Zichrona Livracha, on her 6th yortzeit on the Hebrew calendar. By Jeannie Heller, in memory of my big brother Paul on would have been his 58th birthday. It's the 11th year observing his birthday without him, and it never gets easier. By Marilyn Mashan, in memory of my dad, Frank Haddad, Zichrono Livracha, on his 10th yortzeit. Rest in peace, Pop. I miss you so much. I'd love to share my new home with you. You would love it. By Victor Levy, in celebration of Trans Visibility Day. By Linda Solomon and Bonnie Siegel, a very special happy birthday to a very special friend, activist, leader, and woman of valor, Ruthie Berman. And by Jane Spielman, in memory of my beloved wife, Leah Rizak van Leeuwen, Zichrona Livracha, who has just left. And an enormous gratitude to CBST for being such an incredible web of support. And by Calvin Klein Hoffman, Sabrina Farber, and Kurt Wagner. Tonight, we close our service with the singing of V'samachta bechagecha. You should rejoice and be happy in your holidays. Page 194.
ושמחת בחגיך וחיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך וחיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח Yael, 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 ושמחת בחגיך וחיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך והיית אך שמח.
And now, in honor of the festival, we recite Kiddush, our distinct festival Kiddush, which you can find on page 276. We invite you to rise in body and spirit.
יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי, מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי, מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי וחברותיי.
I am.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו עם כל עם, ורוממנו עם כל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, שבתות למנוחה, מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון. את יום השבת הזה, ואת יום חג המצות הזה, זמן חירותנו באהבה מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים. ושבת ומועדי קודשך, באהבה וברצון, בשמחה ובששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני. מקדש השבת וישראל והזמנים.
Amen. And now we recite Motzi over our matzah. And we ask everybody, really do it. Reach out so that we are all connected to this source of blessing across time zones, across oceans, across all kinds of arbitrary boundaries. We are all together in blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. And as you hear the sounds of crunching around the world, we wish you a Chag Sameach and a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Moadim l'simcha.
Moadim l'simcha. Shabbat Shalom.